Hello and welcome to the Aid Station. I'm Chris Robb and I'm delighted today to have joining me all the way from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, Pedro Rego Monteiro, who is the CEO of Effect Sport. Hi, Pedro. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Chris. An honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Wonderful. And you've got some amazing events. We were talking before we came on air of your King and Queen of the Sea with, over 20,000 participants across a number of different legs. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, as we probably will in the interview, but maybe start by you just giving us a little bit of a background and telling us the Pedro story, if you wouldn't mind.
I'm from Rio originally. Lived in Rio until I was 15. Moved to the US when I was that age. Lived in the US for 10 years. I used to be I was a professional swimmer. First moved to Boston, then finished high school, went to college in Ohio in a place called Canyon College, swam. Trained in LA, trained in Florida for a while, came back to Brazil in 2000 with an economics and a major in economics and a minor in environmental studies. And then worked in a financial market for a while, but then joined the Pan American Games organizing committee in 2005. And it was my first contact with sports marketing. I was eventually head of licensing and concessions for the Pan American Games. And then 2008, I left to start the agency. Have been there, of course, since. And still try to swim as much as I can, a bit of triathlon as well, and have a 3-year-old kid, married, and that's as personal as we should get, right?
Yeah, and you were telling me earlier, and I guess I can relate a little bit. You got a 3-year-old, I got a 5-year-old. You were saying you got dressed up to come on the interview, and your little 3-year-old was worried that you were going to be leaving home for a while. And it's funny.
Yeah, he didn't sleep well tonight, and I mean he just woke up. It's it's 9:30 here in Rio, and I was downstairs and he called me, and I went up and he was like, "Hey, Dad, why are you dressed up?" And I'm like, "Oh," and it was hard to explain to him that I had a call, and he hasn't seen me dressed up for the past month and a half. I've been at home, and he's like, "Dad, you're not going to work, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to work." "Okay, Dad, I don't want you to go to work." So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Daddy does have to go to work.
Go to work, yeah.
But yeah.
And tell me a little bit then, into that, what is the current situation in Rio, and what's life like for you on a daily basis? You were saying you're not completely locked down, but fundamentally at home. What's it like generally?
Yeah, I mean, some people are choosing how locked down they are. Here, I mean, at our home, we haven't left the house. We left a couple of times, just things we really, really needed to do. But for the past month and a half, we've left twice. So we are ordering everything, and fortunate to have all the services that we need available to us. But some people are leaving their homes to do basic stuff, go to the grocery store, or go for a walk. The beaches in Rio are closed. Things are being done differently in different states. But in Rio, you can't go to the beach. I mean, you can walk on the sidewalk. But you can't go on the sand. You can't go in the water. If you do, the police will go there and ask you to leave. My mom, who's 80, who was more of a rebel, almost got arrested last week because she was walking on the beach. But the basic services are working. Of course, all the medical services and grocery stores and drugstores. But in Rio, it's some stuff that maybe shouldn't be working normally is, and some other stuff. But most people that I know are working from home. Pretty much everybody that I know is working from home. All the agencies, all companies, and so all home office in a home office format. And we have been at the agency since March 16th.
Wow. And so how's that for someone like you who's, obviously exercise is really important. You have access to a pool where you live, you're managing to exercise, and this kind of being locked down for this period, have you kind of learned anything about yourself that you didn't really realize or expect in this different situation in life?
It's been cliche, but it's been positive in a few ways. I mean, some things that we were so rushed for so many years that some things that I had been meaning to do, I couldn't. And now, I mean, still don't have a lot of time with, like, the agency is still going, and with the family and having to take care of the house and all. But I've had more time for sure than I had before this. So fortunately, we have a little gym at home. So I have a bike, I have weights. Actually, we worked for the U.S. Olympic Committee during the Rio Games, and some of the material that they left behind are now part of my gym. So we have free weights from that they used at the training center. We have some other stuff, and I'm buying a rowing machine that should arrive soon. But I have a bike. I have TRX. I mean, we have equipment here that I've been biking. Yesterday, I biked for like an hour and a half a night when Joaquin had gone to bed, my son. So, I mean, I'm actually more active now in the past month and a half than I had been, because I've been able to do every day consistently some kind of exercise. And I've been meditating more, something that makes a big difference in my life. And something that I wasn't being able to do on a regular basis. And now I've had and read more about some books that I probably have like over 100 books that I've bought that I haven't read, and I probably won't handle all of them, but I hope to get ahead. I'm not buying anymore, and I hope to get ahead on that list by the end of the period. So, and just also at the agency, I mean, being able to spend more time to think strategically, and of course, we're talking about this, it's hard to figure out some of the strategy because there's so many uncertain variables, but also rethinking who we are as an agency, where we're going to go. Of course, now it's I believe everybody's doing this, everybody who also works with live events. And so it's been interesting. It's been maybe a necessary moment to, like, with a little more quietness to rethink, reconsider, and and go from there.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think there's so many great opportunities. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how with a 3-year-old you're managing to get time to read books and everything. I find my 5-year-old's knocking on the door every half hour, and in the morning, the minute he wake up, it's daddy time. But I'm delighted to hear that you're finding that time. Congrats. I'd love to kind of move on to some of your challenges. I mean, how big's your team? And obviously they're all working remotely. They spread. Is it a challenge interacting with them? And apart from this great portfolio of events that you've got that you're trying to reschedule and work out, what are some of the challenges you're finding that you're dealing with at the moment?
I mean, we've of course never worked in this format before, so there was no benchmark. We hadn't practiced for this. I mean, we had to start doing it. As we're talking, the agency has a lot of live events, but we also do a lot of digital work for international clients. So that the digital part of it is working really well. I mean, we're not suffering at all. I mean, the designers are talking a lot with the content people and the BI people, and I mean, that's working. In the event side, we have a daily meeting, the leadership of the agency every morning at 10 a.m. Brazil time. There are 4 or 5 people that talk about what's going on, what they have done, what they see as opportunities, and again, we're having to reconsider all the events and rethink all the events. So, and I mean, there's some more technical stuff that it's not worth going into, but that's particular to Brazil. They have to consider some like tax incentive laws, things that we have to work with for the events. But it's some people are not working much at all. I mean, we know, and but we're trying to stay connected with, considering now starting next week having like a morning call, like a Japanese style, like morning call, something short, half an hour, but it brings all the team together just so people can look at each other, and everybody has like a minute or last 30 seconds to talk about what's going on. And we for Easter we sent everybody like something simple but that people loved. We sent like an Easter egg to everybody at home, and I mean people live like in very different places, so it wasn't the most simple thing, and but it worked and people loved it. We have been as an agency also, and this we realized that made people feel good. 10% of the money we raise with the King and Queen of the different events, we put into a fund that we support different social projects. And we spent that part of the money from the December stage of the Queen, the last leg of the King and Queen, and some of the money from this leg that was supposed to happen but was postponed into buying food for people, underprivileged people from the favelas. And so there's one person from the agency who is managing the logistics of that. So we're supporting projects that are closer to us, that kids that play, that run, that box, that whatever, play basketball, and their families, of course, they're in need. So, I mean, that also united the agency more. So, I mean, I think another, sorry for being a bit long, but some agencies had to let people go. We opted not to let anybody go. We're fortunate again to have the digital side that's still working, so we have money coming in, and we have we start off in a positive moment in terms of cash. And so we reduced some people's salaries a bit, but we kept everybody, and that's the plan for as long as we can. We'll see how long this is going to last. So I mean, that move of not letting anybody go, we know how complicated it would be to be let go at this point, because of course it would be impossible to find employment. We know that some agencies have to do it. I mean, they have no choice. We had a choice, so we opted not to do it, even though we're having, like, of course, running on a negative every month. But I mean, that also I believe made people more connected to the agency. So I could see us coming out of this again, not to sound too positive and too optimistic, but I could see us coming out of this truly stronger and more united, you know. And of course, the moves that we take, the decisions that we make in the upcoming weeks will determine that.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I'm hearing that story regularly on this. You know, the one that we released today was Andrew Messick, the CEO of Ironman, and you know, he's talking about, you know, staff team communication, so important, and it's a theme that's been repeated regularly. And I love your wonderful charity theme. That's fantastic. I mean, I guess you've had to innovate in a few things. You were talking about, you know, your King and Queen is constantly evolving. Some innovations that you've seen, or a particular innovation that you've seen that you've found amazing, maybe something you've done yourself or something that you've seen happening across the industry?
I mean, something that is big all over, but it's doesn't converse that well with sports. It's like all the live concerts, all the live that are happening in Brazil. I mean, a lot of local, national artists are doing the same. In sports, we have a lot of esports going on. I mean, like the F1 and different, the NFL, the NBA doing like, but like I haven't seen yet like a huge, truly innovative, huge innovation that has happened. I think it's still to come. I think in our case, we have spent the past month really figuring out what to do with what we had, and we try to allocate as much time as possible to think like new things, but it has proven to be hard. So I mean, we wanted to organize the house in this new format before we actually, but we are thinking of some live things to for as soon as this is over, and we don't know if it's going to be with public, with no public, but something that is has meaning. I think one of the main things that we're going to see happening is that everything's gonna have to is going to need more meaning. I think like just like the regular sports for sports events. I mean, of course, they do have their place, especially if they are high level. People are always going to want to see high level at whatever being played, being performed. But I think that overall, I mean, to make the the content more interesting, more viable, more competitive, I think everybody's going to be demanding more meaning. Consumers, companies, even the players, the performers. So we've had truly, since we started the agency, we're always very socially engaged in the environment with causes, and I mean something that we did it true as there was a lot of truth every time we did it, because it was something that meant a lot to us. So I hope that this is gonna I know that this changes from country to country. Of course, in some countries this is a must, in some countries not as much, and I think there's going to be a huge increase in the relevancy of meaning in everything.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It really makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And to end on, I mean, that's a really positive note, but you know, I always love to end with an inspirational story or something that's inspired you. Anything that comes to mind?
We've had I mean, I come from a house like I have like amazing parents. Both of them are 80, and my very correct, very proper, very just, very. And my mom is a doctor, pediatric cardiologist, and she has an amazing life of coming from poverty, big time, like not having enough to eat as a kid, and going through public schools, and I mean becoming a doctor, going to London. I mean going to tech. I mean becoming. She's now the main pediatric cardiologist in Brazil. She started a foundation 20-something years ago to treat kids with heart disease, and she built a hospital, 7 stories. I mean, 100 rooms. I mean, amazing.
Wow,
I'm telling you the short version, but amazing story. And and I've also have had more time to talk to her, not be with her, but to talk to her in the past month and a half. And it's been nice to reconnect, and nice to remind myself of how important all that is, and how meaningful her life has been, and again another shot of meaning into my life and into in this moment that we're all, of course, looking for answers and for all that. It has been very nice to reconnect, and nice to see how meaningful her life was, and how important that is to myself, and how much I want that to be true 30 years, 40 years from now, and like I look back. And so it's a moment that I believe that a lot of people are going through this, people that were very capable of helping others, but that for somehow took another path, not a wrong path, but a path that was more commercial, more capitalist in the strict capitalist sense. And we see a lot of those people now kind of realizing that there is an option, that their lives weren't as great as they thought they were. Like, I mean, my life, I mean, I see a lot of things in my life that I can do differently. So again, I believe this is true, as you said, in a few other instances of things that we talked about. I think this is going to be true all over, and I truly believe that a lot of people will find, again, meaning has become the theme, right? A new meaning, and they're going to add meaning to their lives. And I think we will come out better of this. Don't want to sound too overly positive and optimistic, but I truly do believe that a lot of good things will come out of this.
Yeah, look, absolutely, no doubt. What a brilliant point to end. Pedro, it's so wonderful to talk to you. We could talk for hours, I'm sure, but thank you so much for sharing that. I love that story about your mum and her tenacity, and almost getting arrested on the beach, and with all the wonderful stuff she does. What a great story, something for you to be proud and inspired of. And I'm sure you'll go on and inspire generations as well. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking, and wish you all the very, very best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Again, thanks for inviting me, and good luck with all your work. And yes.